Hi, also, as Owen said, I'm Sally Sansom, and I have the great pleasure of introducing Angeliki Kerasidou, who is an Associate Professor at the Ethos Centre and a Research Fellow at the Wellcome Centre for Ethics and Humanities within the University of Oxford. Angeliki is also a Fellow at Reuben College, where she leads the Ethics and Values theme, and is a member of the steering group for the Centre for Personalised Medicine. Angeliki's research focuses on ethical issues that arise from the introduction of new technologies to and the effect of socioeconomic changes on biomedical research and clinical practice. Angeliki uses philosophical analysis and empirical research to examine the ways in which these factors impact on the theory and practice of professional ethics for biomedical researchers and healthcare staff. In her current work, Angeliki is examining the ethics of artificial intelligence in population health. She is particularly interested in the ways in which AI's capacity for greater accuracy and efficiency can impact on trust, both relational and epistemic. So please join me in welcoming Angeliki.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the very kind introduction. Thank you for the invitation as well. Thank you to the OII team, Sandra and Brent and Owen as well, who's been back and forth with me, chasing me for my presentation, my title, and to the CPM group as well. It's really great, and I'm already enjoying the morning. So I hope to add to the discussion. And it was such the last discussion we're having in the panel, so such an excellent segue to my topic. We're just starting talking about trust. I feel like, oh, excellent! I'm going to talk a bit about trust. So thank you for that, for kind of preparing the path to talk a bit about trust in AI. So before I start, I just want to kind of start with a little kind of anecdote or joke. So a person, not a man necessarily, a person goes to the doctor and says, "Doctor, I'm really convinced I'm dying. I'm dying of a horrible disease. Everywhere I touch my body, it hurts. It hurts here, it hurts here, it hurts here, here. I think I'm really dying." And the doctor looks at the patient and says, like, "My dear person, man, you're not dying. You just have a broken finger." Okay. So, right. So why? So the question then becomes like, so why should that person now change their view about whether they're dying of a horrible disease? Because I'm sure they've gone to Google and say, like, if you're like your spleen hurts and your spine hurts and this hurts and that hurts, like, I'm sure the answer is cancer somewhere. Like, I think every time you go to Google and you check your, your symptoms, at some point you hit the kind of cancer, like the C word. So why should that person now change their view and think like, no, actually, I'm not dying of some horrible disease. I just have a broken finger, and go along with a kind of probably treatment pathway that the doctor will just say, like, let's have an X-ray and put your finger onto some kind of, rapid and fast. So why would that be the case? So one way maybe to answer this question is because we think that doctors kind of know best, right? So they are some kind of experts. They have some, what we might call epistemic authority. And perhaps a common understanding of epistemic authority is someone with a superior knowledge to that of another with respect to a specific domain. So if I want to know more about political philosophy, then I will go to Barbara. And because Barbara is an expert in political philosophy, then I will accept what Barbara says as being true. And I will change my view about what I was thinking before based on what she just says. And this is what Zagzewski kind of says when she writes about epistemic authority. That once we accept someone as an epistemic authority, then we need to accept their testimony as being true, and that in a way permits us to change our beliefs and also tailor our action accordingly. And this is what the rational thing to do would be, right? If you think that someone actually knows more about a particular domain than you, and they say something, then the rational thing to do is like now to change your true belief about the thing that you're questioning and align it with the one that the expert just told you, right? So there's nothing too difficult to understand about there. So, like, to go back to my little joke, so the person with a broken finger can forget about dying from this horrible disease that is affecting his body. He can, like, reasonably, we say, like, the rational thing to do will be to replace his belief with that of his doctor or their doctor, and that this is the reasonable thing to do. So in this case, we go down that route of like the doctor knows best. So where does this confidence, however, that the doctor knows best comes from? So we believe that doctors know best, not because, or not only because, and actually this is becoming increasingly less and less common, that we know our doctors. Let's call her Mary. So we know Mary, and Mary always tells us the truth. And because last time we went to see Mary, she was able to help us with our broken finger and kind of pay our concerns about us dying. But also, and perhaps more importantly, because Mary has gone to medical school and she's been trained in a particular way, and because Mary's knowledge is evidence-based, right? So medical knowledge comes from empirically collected and statistically analyzed data, and this analysis helps us to develop probabilities. And the better, more comprehensive our data, the closer our probabilities come to the reality or the truth. Okay. So if this is our understanding of what medical knowledge is, and is the sole basis of an actor's epistemic authority, is about getting our probabilistic calculations as close to reality as possible, then it seems that AI can have an advantage over human doctors in that way. So AI models can be trained on large data sets, can process a lot more information much faster. They can have access to real-time data. They can update their outputs through methods of machine learning. And also AI can utilize a lot more data to support clinical decision-making, leading to kind of what a lot of people, this is the picture of that iceberg there is from a paper, like a kind of a new, deeper era of evidence-based medicine. So studies have demonstrated, for example, how AI models can be as accurate, or just saying that, they can very much come to kind of human accuracy levels, sometimes even more accurate than doctors in diagnostic tasks. And the anticipation is, or we're told that AI models will get even better. So studies have demonstrated that doctors who rely on AI also can improve their accuracy. Depends on when you input in what side of the system you put the AI model in, but like studies have been demonstrated that when you pair doctors with AI, then you get much more kind of accurate predictions in the end. But doctors often dismiss AI recommendations, suggesting that perhaps it's not AI aversion, it is AI aversion rather than AI deference that might be the problem here. So if we're getting doctors and AI to work together, that leads to better results, but the doctors are ignoring the AI because they're averse to that, then maybe we should try to get them to start working with it a bit more. So maybe it's not AI deference, what was the first problem that we were discussing when we were thinking about the introduction of AI a few years back, but maybe it's AI aversion. So AI deference has been criticized and problematized with respect to the issue of accountability. But if AI tools can produce much more accurate or truthful, let's call it medical knowledge, then we might have good epistemic reasons to want to promote algorithmic deference. So furthermore, AI tools do not get tired, do not get hungry, do not get upset or burnt out, meaning that we can also eliminate all these errors that are the product of our kind of limited human biology. So it seems to me that there is a pretty good argument to suggest that perhaps we should stop trusting doctors altogether and start relying more on AI tools. And we could leave it to this. But I would say that this view, which is often implied in studies reporting the epistemic prowess of AI models over human doctors, it is based on a narrow understanding of what medicine is, and as others also have pointed out, leads to a new kind of paternalism where one epistemic expert, the doctor in this side, is just replaced by another epistemic expert, the AI. So we're kind of moving from the doctor knows best to the AI knows best kind of idea. At least this is what a lot of the studies seem to be alluding to. So I believe, however, that there are good reasons to reject AI paternalism, as in the past we have rejected doctor paternalism and the doctor kind of AI, doctor knows best kind of model. So, and the reason why I think that we can reject paternalism, AI paternalism, the same way that we've rejected doctor paternalism, is because medicine is not merely an epistemic enterprise, but more importantly, maybe it's a social or relational enterprise. And a type of medicine that uses data guidelines based on population averages to treat patients will only end up ignoring the situated expertise of physicians, but also the personal values and individual circumstances of patients. And I'm quoting Tappen here. And this is thing that kind of Barbara was alluding to, and as well as Matthias was talking about, this kind of the human side, right? So if we think that actually then this is what, like, medicine is a bit more than kind of establishing some kind of biological truth, then maybe this is the way we can go about. So let's go back to the question that I started with, right? Why do we trust doctors? So why do we trust doctors? And I would like to modify my original answer now a bit. So we trust doctors not only because they know more about medicine than we do, but also because they will are good, or they have a particular type of commitment. I'm using kind of Holly's now language here about commitments rather than goodwill. So by commitment or goodwill here, I mean the doctor's commitment to care for their patients in the best of their abilities, right? In this relational understanding of medicine, the patient is there not just as a silent observer, an obedient follower of doctor's instructions, but a partner in the therapeutic relationship. The patient brings to the room their individual expertise of their condition or disease. They are the embodied reality of their condition or illness rather than a statistical representation of it. And also they bring their own personal history, their values, their preferences, their commitments, and so on. And what is the role of the doctor there is to engage with all these aspects of the patient and treat the person and not just the disease, as the motto kind of goes. And the patient is there to engage with the doctor and decide with the doctor's expert input and guidance what is the best course of actions for them. So viewing medicine as a social and relational enterprise invites us to rethink the notion of epistemic expertise in medicine. That is kind of what we call medical expertise. So what is medical expertise? So the doctor is considered an expert in the room, not because she is the source of true beliefs, like Zazenski was saying about, like a domain authority is a source of true beliefs, but rather as a source of, maybe let's call it, understanding. So in other words, instead of telling us with authority that what we ought to believe and how we ought to behave, what the doctor does is telling us what is a good or not good reason to believe something, and what is the state of evidence regarding a specific question or an issue that we have, and how does this all relate to our specific circumstances. So effectively, they're there to also help us make sense, kind of derive some meaning, and that goes back to the discussion we're having about explainable AI. They're there to kind of help us make sense of what's happening, what specific domain expertise says, what we want, how are we experiencing it, what will be the best way to go forward from that point. So medical questions are not, strictly speaking, domain-specific questions in the way that, for example, a question about what is the capital of Germany is, or what is the biggest river on the planet, can be like domain-specific questions to geography, or like what is an atom and what is its properties can be a domain-specific question to physics, right? They are relational questions, and their answers depend on many factors, many of which have nothing to do with a specific scientific domain of human biology or physiology, but they are about kind of sociocultural norms, they're about personal preferences, they're about practical issues, they're about constraints that the patient might have experiencing, and so on and so forth. So when you go to your doctor, you don't just ask them like how many bones are in the human body. This is not the thing that will necessarily give you the answer to what you want. So although a doctor cannot always answer all our questions for us patients, especially questions like, will this therapy be better for me, all things considered? Will I be happier or better able to meet my other duties and obligations if I go down path A or path B? Will I be able to live a good life in the way that is meaningful to me? These are not questions that the doctors can answer for us, but they can nevertheless, I think, help us make sense of what's happening and tell us how we should reason about it, like about our decision to prefer pathway A or pathway B when trying to make a decision. So an epistemic authority in medicine is someone who is able to guide us in understanding what counts as a good evidence or reason for our belief or action, rather than someone who is there to tell us what we ought to believe or how we ought to act. Yeah, I hope like I'm making kind of this distinction clear. So I think it's not about, as I said, like not who knows best, but who can care for me best and help me make my decision here. So where does this leave us in relation to the issue what about AI here? So regarding epistemic reasons, what I was suggesting in my first part of the talk about deferring to AI or not, our medical decisions. So AI tools might be able to do things like process more data faster and more accurately than humans, but they cannot do the kind of this type of explaining. And I think the discussion we were having earlier about what explainable AI means what kind of explanations are we looking for whom, to whom, and all this kind of stuff, in like, this is what I have in mind, like this type of explaining. So they cannot do this kind of explaining or evaluating or maybe different ways, like engaging, that is required by medical experts in order to help patients make sense of their own situation and make the right decisions for themselves. I don't think, however, this makes AI useless in the medical domain. So let me just, yes, well, we can put that there. So I will say that we might have some strong epistemic reasons to incorporate reliable AI. And again, with the panel discussion, when they were talking about explainable AI, I was thinking, like, maybe what we should be aiming for is like reliable AI. And then the explainability then becomes, or at least the way that explainability is understood within like computer science can come under that. But I would say, like, maybe we have good epistemic reasons to want to incorporate reliable AI tools into the medical decision making. In the end of the day, AI tools could give doctors some access to some epistemic goods that they might be useful. For example, information that is useful and important, domain-specific information, let's call it this way. But accepting this does not commit us to a view that we ought to consider AI tools as the epistemic authority in the room, whose recommendations now doctors and patients need to blindly follow. So we can still enjoy the benefits of AI whilst resisting this new kind of new age AI paternalism. So moving forward, it would be much more beneficial to think of the future of medicine and machine kind of interaction in the medicine, not as one of confrontation between AI and humans, but one of collaboration. So as long as we continue to consider medicine not just as a domain-specific scientific endeavor, but also as a social and relational enterprise, then the epistemic authority, I suggest, should and will remain with the doctor, and it will still be the doctor who will be trusted to treat us with skill and also kind of commitment or goodwill. You can take whichever word that you like. So that was my short presentation. So thank you very much for your attention.